So, what's going on guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another zombies video on the channel. We are back today with a Q&A, the series where I take your questions from the comment section below to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if there's anything you want to know, leave it in the comment section below. If you do enjoy the video by the end, a like rating would be appreciated. Make sure you are subscribed, but let's get into it. Here we go. Enjoy. So the first question of the day from Not Great Goat says, how has no one asked the question of how Samantha is still able to go to the perfect universe when she still has her powers of the ether? And that is a very good question. It's something I haven't really thought about. At the end of Tag der Toten, when the multiverse is destroyed and Dr. Monty, the Shadow Man, Element 115, the Apothecans, the Transit Crew, everything that spewed forth from the ether is banished back to there. We also see the Primus and Ultimus characters kill themselves, and so the only two left are the children, Samantha and Eddie. All of the corruption has either been banished back to the Dark Ether, or in the case of Primus and Ultimus, killed. The two innocent, being the children, were then left to wander into a perfect universe, one that was free of corruption, where they were free to grow up without the influence of the ether, or Element 115. But something I hadn't thought about, and as you say in your question, well, Samantha isn't exactly free of corruption because doesn't she still have her powers? As we saw in the map previous to Tag der Toten, which was Alpha Omega, in the ending cutscene, when Samantha is teleported from the house to Nuketown, after witnessing Dr. Monty kill her father, we discover that Samantha still has her powers. She uses them to totally destroy Nuketown, she blows the whole place up, and she then tells us that she's going to go to Dr. Monty's house to kill him and burn it to the ground. And not even that, but we also see on Tag der Toten, there is the Samantha music box Easter egg, where you can throw this item and Samantha will appear in the map, using her powers to kill all of the zombies around the area. So clearly Samantha still has her powers, she is still corrupted by the Dark Ether, or is she? That's another question. But as you're saying, Samantha was supposed to be innocent. The reason why we destroyed the multiverse and banished everything back to the Dark Ether was so the two children could grow up normally. But if Samantha still has her powers, then how is that gonna be? And that brings me on to my first point. Is or is she not corrupted by the Dark Ether? If she is, then how has that happened? And if she isn't, then how has that happened? Because in our zombie storyline, Samantha arrived in the house from Argotha. She was trapped in there in Origins when the Primus crew freed her. Dr. Monty brought her to the house where she was still corrupted by the Dark Ether. This happened way before, back in 1945, when she was teleported to the moon, came into contact with the MPD, and when she touched it, that's when she became corrupted. And so as we went through the maps all the way to Origins, and Samantha became trapped in Argotha, still being corrupted, Monty took her, brought her to the house, and then we know not long after, when her and Maxis were reunited, Dr. Monty took her away, we don't know where to, but he freed her of her corruption and then brought her back to the house. So Samantha shouldn't be corrupted by the Dark Ether. Yet, all of a sudden, when Nuketown happened, Samantha still had her powers and used them to destroy the place. If she was freed from corruption, then how does she still have powers? A couple of explanations I can think of is, one, possibly Dr. Monty lied, although it wasn't Dr. Monty that told us directly, it was actually in the Canorium, so I can't really see that being the case. But maybe when Dr. Monty took her away from the house, he never actually freed her of corruption. I mean, in that case, what did he do to her when he was alone? But because we are told that by the Canorium, I don't think it would lie. And so the second explanation I thought of is, maybe when she witnessed Dr. Monty kill her father, that brought back memories, that brought back anger that she hadn't had in a long time. Maybe that could have brought back her corruption and caused her to gain her powers. Or maybe actually when she used the teleporter in the house, because that is what Maxis used to send her to Nuketown. We know part of their function is Element 115. Every time our Primus or Ultimus characters have used them, their state has slightly changed. So possibly when she was teleported, that caused her powers to come back. Or maybe she isn't corrupted by the Dark Ether, and in that case I would have to ask, how does she still have powers then? Why does she get to keep them? That is something I can't explain. But getting back to your original question, how is Samantha still able to go to the perfect universe if she still has powers? If she's still corrupted by the Dark Ether? We don't know if she is or isn't. For me, it's a bit of a weird one. They want the children to be able to grow up normally, yet Samantha still has powers, so how normal can you be? I'm not really too sure. maybe when the multiverse was destroyed and everything was banished back to the Dark Ether, she lost her powers. Possibly that could have happened in between Tag der Toten happening and the ending cutscene, we just didn't see it. Other than that, I'm not too sure. Does she still have them? Doesn't she? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if she does, it would definitely be interesting to see if that would take a role in this new universe. The next question of the day says, why could nobody stop the zombie outbreak? Was there no cure? Again, a very good question, because the zombie apocalypse went on for a very long time. It wasn't just for a couple of weeks or months, it was years, in fact 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. It started in our original timeline back in 1945, and then as we progress through the maps, going to Kino der Toten in the 60s, and then even further to Transit in 2025 and 2035. The zombie outbreak happened for a long time, although relatively contained for quite a while. You could say there was only really a massive outcry when the 3 rockets hit Earth from the moon, but the zombie outbreak had been going on for a very long time, and it's difficult to understand why no one had come up with a cure. Although when you look into the storyline, perhaps it isn't, because we know the governments, whether it was the US, Japan, different countries around the world, were actually trying to create their own versions of the undead, instead of trying to put a stop to this, which in some sense they were. The US were trying to stop Samantha, but also they weren't, because they were creating their own versions of the undead. Of course, we also had Germany and Japan. The Russians were also using Element 115. A lot of countries weren't really trying to stop this. They were trying to create their own versions of the undead. I mean, that still leaves a lot of countries that weren't really involved, even though by the time Transit came around, the whole world had turned into a zombie infested wasteland. So it's actually a difficult one to answer. Firstly, I would have to say, is it even possible? Can you even cure this? Maybe the only cure is death, is to kill them. Maybe once you are turned into the undead, there is no coming back. We haven't seen that happen in our zombie storyline, and we know Group 935 being the major contributors. One example I can think of is in Kino der Toten, when Maxis's assistant Sophia was turning into the undead. He shot her, killed her, and then put her brain inside of a drone. Surely if it was possible, he would have come up with a cure to save her. It's the same with Richtofen back in Origins. As Maxis was turning catatonic as he was dying, that could have led to him turning into the undead, even though it's a little bit different in that situation. But still, instead of trying to find a cure, he killed him and put his brain inside of a drone, so we don't even know if it's possible. Then again, I don't really think anyone tried. You might be asking, well, what about perks such as Quick Revive? Is that technically a cure? I wouldn't say so, because we know in order to turn into the undead, you first have to die, 115 then has to infect you, and then you become reanimated as a zombie. The Quick Revive perk gets you back up once you are downed. What does it actually mean in terms of storyline when our characters go down? Does it just mean they are hurt, and Quick Revive gives them a little boost to help them get back up? I mean, if you really want to think of it differently, it could be a cure, because if our characters do end up going down and dying, they would turn into the undead, and Quick Revive stops that. Could you also count Juggernog as a kind of cure or repellent to becoming a zombie, since it gives you extra hits? I don't know, I wouldn't really count them. And then I suppose the other one is the Surette. This is the device that our characters use to revive each other. You can only see it when you are the one reviving. It is this device right here, where you pull the cap off and then inject it into the wounded players, and it revives them, it gets you back up. Could this be counted as a cure? I'm not too sure. Hey, that rhymes. But again, none of these, whether it's the perks or the Surette, actually turn you back to a human from being a zombie. They all just get you back up once you are down, so whether or not you want to include this, I think it's your personal opinion. But as for an actual cure turning people back from the undead, well, either it isn't possible to do, because if anyone could have done it, it would have been Group 935, and there were a few situations such as Sophia turning, where I think Maxis, if he could have, would have made a cure, but then again, maybe he had to be quick and they hadn't been working on one before. And then also I would say, well, maybe if someone had actually tried to have made one, there could have been. It's just most countries were trying to create their own versions of the undead, so why would they make a cure when they're actually trying to make a zombie army? It's a difficult one to answer. Honestly, if you ask me, which, well, you are, I don't think it's possible, because how can you cure yourself against element 115? But still, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But there we go, guys. That is it for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, a like rating would of course be appreciated. If not, it's totally fine. Thank you guys for watching anyway. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.